Let's talk about Oklahoma.
Oh, goodness. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oklahoma.
now that you're all here, Oklahoma is, I guess it's 2 states. So we have this story from CNBC. For those that aren't familiar, this is a big ruling today, and I was really confused why it wasn't getting more attention.
Me too.
The Supreme Court has ruled that the eastern half of Oklahoma is a Native American reservation.
Like, more than half.
Yeah.
According to the map. It's a chunk.
Here you go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's pretty much half, I guess.
So I think, I'm not entirely sure this is, this is just an image I found on the internet, which is supposedly the original 1866 treaty reservation. Look at this little piece of Oklahoma right there. Well, you're good right there in that little corner. You're all right. You're still under state jurisdiction.
That's going to be stolen by Kansas in no time.
Right.
Here's the big challenge. Depending on who you ask, well, actually, for the most part, no one's talking about this.
Yeah, why?
It's being
weird.
covered. But I'm on Twitter and I'm like, shouldn't people be saying something?
Yeah, how is it not exploding?
I saw a tweet from someone saying, guys, I know Trump's tax returns and all that, but what about this story? And no one cared. So I looked it up and I read it and I just like I busted out laughing.
Yeah.
Like my main segment today is about this. And I was originally going to talk about like Joe Biden adopting Bernie's policies.
Yeah.
And then I saw this and I started laughing. I'm like, the whole article, I'm sorry, man. I'm just going to say it. Based on what I've read,
Yeah.
and I've read multiple articles, and I've listened to what the Supreme Court justices have said.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like precedent has been set to dissolve the U.S. So,
yeah, I agree. It's pretty scary.
The simplified version of this argument is that the U.S. never officially dissolved the Native American reservation of Oklahoma when they made it a state.
Yeah.
Chief Justice Roberts said, that's not true. Of course they did. They made it a state. Of course they did. So why are these other justices arguing that it's still a Native American reservation? Based on that precedent, you would need to make sure, I assure you right now, every single Native American lawyer is pulling up every treaty,
Yep.
and they're going to point to a single word and go, bam, imprecise language.
Yep.
So there were 10 other states that warned the Supreme Court, if you rule in favor of the Native American tribes, the same thing will happen in all of our states as well.
Bye, Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii especially.
I'm shocked Hawaii is still a thing. Like, this was the beginning of the day. Hawaii should have been like on it already. Like, okay, bye.
So here's the important
outta here.
factors. Depending on who you ask, you'll hear something different. The left, the Supreme Court justices who favored this, and the people who support them, because it was all of the liberal judges, say no, it's only about it's only about crimes. Mm-hmm. Like the state is still working with Tulsa. So this is 2 million Americans in this territory that are now living on Native American reservation. This means so much more than anyone is saying. So let me read you the story and try and figure this out, right? So they say the Supreme Court ruled that a huge swath of the state of Oklahoma is Native American land for certain purposes, siding with a Creek Nation man who challenged his conviction by state authorities in the territory. I'm going to be very careful about reading the story because the guy who won, he is a diddler. Yeah.
Not a good guy.
Not a good guy. In 1997, he got convicted of diddling a child.
A 4-year-old.
And
disgusting.
Argued that his conviction would not stand because it was legally Native American territory and the state had no right to prosecute. And the Supreme Court said, yes. Wow. Let the man go. And now the state has said there's 1,700 violent criminals, or just criminals in general, that will now have the same ability.
Same argument.
Now here's what the other side is saying. They're saying no, because their opportunity for appeal and all that has, long since passed. I don't believe that. If they set a precedent that this is on, Native American land.
Yeah, that means they were unlawfully arrested in the first place.
How would you not be able to petition that?
Exactly.
But let's read a little bit. They say the decision means that only federal authorities, no longer state prosecutors, can lodge charges against Native Americans who commit serious alleged crimes on that land, which is home to 1.8 million people. Of those people, 15% or fewer are Native Americans. Quote, today we are asked whether the land these treaties promised remains an Indian reservation for purposes of federal criminal law, Gorsuch wrote. Because Congress has not said otherwise, we hold the government to its word. Now, here's why I think this is serious. Because I understand he's saying it's about federal criminal law, but does this not open the door now for one-upping that argument and saying, if for criminal purposes, why not other purposes?
Yep.
More importantly, what did the state say? The state didn't say this is only going to be about crimes. They said it's going to affect everything. Because think about this. He says federal criminal law. What does the law do? What does the law do? Collect your taxes. You don't pay your taxes. Okay. What happens if you live in this Tulsa area and you do not pay your Oklahoma state tax? I'm sorry. Can they actually, can the state come after you now? Or is this jurisdiction, they say if you're a Native American. So,
which is only 15% of that 1.8
But I'm not entirely
million.
convinced it ends here, right? So let's take out the dissent, right? Chief Justice John Roberts dissented the ruling, as did fellow conservatives Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Brett Kavanaugh. In his dissent, Roberts warned that across this vast area now deemed to be Native American land, the state's ability to prosecute serious crimes will be hobbled, and decades of past convictions could be thrown out, well be thrown out. Mm-hmm. On top of that, the court has profoundly destabilized the governance of eastern Oklahoma. The decision today creates significant uncertainty for the state's continuing authority over any area that touches Indian affairs, ranging from zoning and taxation to family and environmental law. None of this is warranted. What has gone unquestioned for a century remains true today. A huge portion of Oklahoma is not a Creek Indian reservation. Congress disestablished any reservation in a series of statutes leading up to Oklahoma's statehood at the turn of the 19th century. The court reaches the opposite conclusion only by disregarding the well-settled approach required by our precedents. Republican Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt said, "I am aware of the ruling in McGirt v. Oklahoma was handed down this morning by the Supreme Court. My legal team has been following the case closely and is reviewing the decision carefully. They will advise our team on the case's impact and what action, if any, is needed from our office." I'm going to skip over. They talk about McGirt. The state of Oklahoma, in turn, argued to the Supreme Court that the Creek Nation's claimed territory was not a reservation at all. The state said that if the Supreme Court accepted McGirt's reasoning, it would, quote, cause the largest judicial abrogation of state sovereignty in American history, cleaving Oklahoma in half. In court filings to support McGirt, the Muscogee Nation noted that although the tribe had no role in the genesis of this litigation, it, quote, now finds its reservation under direct attack. Riaz Kanji, an attorney for the tribe, wrote in a filing that Oklahoma was exaggerating the jurisdictional problems that would ensue if the state lost its case. To the extent they hold any water, the state's posited consequences stem from the fact that both executive branch and state officials actively sought to undermine Congress's determination that the nation's government and territory would endure, Kanji wrote. Gorsuch endorsed that argument in Thursday's decision. He noted in the majority opinion that no one disputes that Mr. McGirt's crimes were committed on lands described as the Creek Reservation in an 1866 treaty and federal statute. But in seeking to defend the state court judgment below, Oklahoma has put aside whatever procedural defenses it might have and asked us to confirm that the land once given to the Creeks is no longer a reservation today. Gorsuch flatly rejected that request by the state. Under our Constitution, states have no authority to reduce federal reservations lying within their borders. Just imagine if they did. A state could encroach on the tribal boundaries or legal rights Congress provided, and with enough time and patience, nullify the promises made in the name of the United States. That would be at odds with the Constitution, which entrusts Congress with the authority to regulate commerce with Native Americans, and directs that federal treaties and statutes are the supreme law of the land. He added, if that happened, it would also leave tribal rights in the hands of the very neighbors who might be least inclined to respect them. Kanji, in an interview after the decision, said that despite the arguments by the state and in Roberts' dissent, I don't think this case is going to have earth-shattering consequences on the residents of the land by the Native Americans. It just doesn't change anything with respect to non-Indians in terms of criminal cases. Well, here's the issue I see with this.
It definitely changes. And this is what you brought up.
New lawsuits will emerge.
Well,
I believe that's what we'll see.
They don't have representation anymore. The Americans that are now living in that area no longer have representation.
I think they still legally do.
Okay, so they still will have their seats, the Senate seats.
Well, the Senate, yes, because Oklahoma is a state.
Okay.
But I'm curious as to how this will affect the congressional districts.
Right.
If they've said this is a Native American reservation. Now here's what's the craziest thing about this, man. We have an 1866 treaty with them, right?
Okay.
I mean, I've got a video showing all of the, the territories of the Indian homeland, the Native American homeland, and the reservations. And you can clearly see that we've gotten rid of many of their reservations. And this is the point I was bringing up earlier. if they're going to argue that this 1866 treaty, which we basically, walked all over, is still being upheld, then why wouldn't any of these groups then just sue and say, oh, we have a treaty too?
Yep.
So how many other states are going to be impacted by this? I don't entirely know. I do know, based on a lot of the maps, the eastern region is fine. There's no reservations in the eastern region where most of the European settlers were, during the first several hundred years. Then after the revolution, from the late 1700s throughout the 1800s, we had westward expansion, manifest destiny, things like that.
I mean, this clearly shows it all right here.
Yeah, so I'll let this roll in the background. This video calls it the invasion of America. I think it's kind of funny. But there's a couple questions I have now based on this ruling. I think SCOTUS opened the door. I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer, man. I don't think there will be any earth-shattering changes for now. But I think the door has been opened. The changes will slowly emerge.
Yep, exactly.
So in this video I've pulled up, it's going through the years and showing you the lands that are blue are slowly turning gray because they're being taken by the United States. You can see some reservations pop up here and there, but over time, more and more land is just absorbed into the U.S. A bunch of reservations pop up in California in the mid-1850s. So this is literally Americans just going out there, taking the land.
Yep.
Was there a treaty for any of these lands that were settled on by Americans with the Native Americans? Many of them, I would say no. In fact, reservations, I think, are, let's see, we're going to see a big jump, right? See, they're also reservations.
I mean, that whole state of Oklahoma, essentially, except the Panhandle, was part of the Muskogee.
So take a look here. In 2010, they say only this tiny bit, just in the tip of Oklahoma, is a reservation. Now they're saying a whole, the eastern portion of it, like 40%. I have a question if that's the case. If they're going to argue that we have a treaty from 1866 and they say, the United States agreed this was your land, therefore we'll uphold that, isn't there an argument to say, okay, well, we have no agreement on any of the other land, so that's still ours. It was never yours in the first place, right?
I guess, yeah. You could make that argument, yeah.
Well, I think that argument now has much more merit based on the decision of the Supreme Court. If the way I describe it is like, if I trade something with someone and then take it back and they go to court and say, no, we traded, that's mine, he agreed. They'll look it over and say, well, you did agree, so give it back. And there'll be a long court battle. Let's say I just stole from you. Yeah, the cops would come and arrest me and say, you stole it, give it back. Like there's no lawsuit. It's a straight up theft.
Right.
So if the argument is that the U.S. must uphold its contracts and that if the land was granted to them, it's theirs, well, their argument is this land has always been ours. There was never a treaty signed. So you're on our land, right?
I see.
Why wouldn't they be able to present those arguments?
Right.
They probably have before, and maybe, they'll keep trying. But the bigger fear, I guess, is that many other states have warned outright that they have the exact same issue with reservations in their states. Even Maine was saying, apparently, like, we've had native land that there was a treaty, and then, in the 1800s, they're going to just ignore the treaty, and now we built our city over this place. So what's going to happen?
Divided States of America.
There's a reservation apparently in California. It's like 1 acre.
1 acre?
Yeah, and it's like in the middle of a city or somewhere because it's a cemetery, I guess.
Oh.
So there's a lot of places like this, and it feels like the door's been opened.
So I actually did have a question because Oklahoma is part of the Louisiana Purchase. We bought it.
Yeah.
We didn't exactly make an agreement as such, as far as I know, but we literally purchased it outright from the French, I think, right?
You know what, man? I think I know where we're going.
Where? Civil War?
No. Sure.
Just guessing.
But the point I'm making is they are now going to start asserting this is the move being made, and I think we'll see an expansion of this, an escalation of this ideology, this rhetoric, these ideas that we don't own the land, we never bought it, we don't have a right to it. They're now going to say the lands that you contractually own based on the ancestral, the Native Americans are these, so these are ours. And maybe in 50 to 100 years, all of this land will be controlled back. California will be under complete jurisdiction of the Native American tribes.
Or the SJW universe.
Yeah.
Well,
seriously.
the thing is,
SJW land.
a lot of Native Americans are like 1/32nd, Native American.
Okay.
Because of just time, settlement, European colonialism, whatever. But it seems like the door has been opened to now. They're going to start arguing you're on stolen land, decolonize. Like this is step one. Maybe it stops here.
Yeah.
But I'll throw it back to, good old John Oliver. When Donald Trump says they're going to tear down the Confederates, where does it end? Jefferson, Washington. And John Oliver said, somewhere. It stops somewhere. Obviously, they're tearing down Confederates, not the Founding Fathers. And then they tore down the Founding Fathers.
Yep.
Yeah.
So where does this stop? Now we're going to see Maine, Texas, Montana, all these other states that were warning. Hawaii is the best example.
Exactly. That's why I
because
yeah.
So several years ago, I think it was maybe like 6-7 years ago. I don't know. See if you can Google search this. A bunch of native Hawaiians stormed like the state capitol building and barricaded themselves inside it, like armed, I guess, for like 2 weeks. Something like that happened. It's been a really long time since I read
One
this
could
story.
argue it was the original Chaz.
The original Chaz.
Maybe so, yeah.
Well, I mean, no, it's
Well, I mean,
Hawaii
technically
had a king and everything.
Well, actually, and that brings up a good point. Isn't like the entire history of humans
Conquest.
people taking other people's land,
Yep.
right?
There's a song, I think it's called "This Land Is My Land."
Uh-huh.
It's like a very famous viral video.
Well, the next line is "This land is your land."
No.
Oh, it's
This
not?
land is my land. God gave this land to me.
Oh, I didn't hear.
And the
I don't know that
video
version.
is talking about Israel, and it starts with all the different nations that have laid claim to the Holy Land and fighting, and the bodies keep piling up, where they keep saying, "This land is my land. God gave it to me."
Okay.
Yeah. But what were we talking about before that? Did you? Were
I'm
you able
looking for it. They're just
The
talking
Hawaiian?
about reopening Hawaii and stuff right now. So
It's an
everything's
old
more
story.
recent.
And so somebody emailed me this saying that Hawaii was essentially, occupied and taken over.
Yeah.
That America needed the strategic position in the Pacific. And so they broke a lot of rules to make Hawaii, into a state. And there are native Hawaiians who have always resisted and never agreed to this. So, do we have a hard treaty with the people of Hawaii over this state becoming?
I don't know much
occupied?
about this
I don't
kind
know.
of stuff. I'm gonna
I
have
don't
to
know.
do some digging on it.
You can't find anything on it?
I can't find anything that far back.
I think it was during Occupy Wall Street, which is why it was like a big deal to everybody.
Yeah.
Like the Native Americans were like demanding their land back. The Native Hawaiians were demanding their land
Right.
back. So,
Occupy Honolulu in 2012.
I don't know, maybe.
That sounds about the right
September.
time.
Yeah, that is the right time frame.
Well, I don't know exactly when it happened, but did they like storm into the Capitol building or something?
Yeah, they're
Oh, there you
there
go.
camped outside the Capitol building.
No, inside.
Oh, inside.
Maybe that was it. I don't know.
I don't know.
But apparently it's happened multiple times, I guess. Like Hawaiians being like, "Give us back our land," and now it's occupied by big businesses and the military, and and America. It's American now. So what happens if a lawsuit is waged saying that they have no jurisdiction over this, and they say that the original agreements for statehood were imprecise,
Yeah.
and then you get these same justices going, "Yep, sure."
Because they've already set the precedent themselves.
I don't know. Maybe it's all overhyped. It's possible. My only issue with it is considering how insane everything has been this year. I'm gonna go ahead and just bet on the worst of the worst. They got volcano sharks now. Did you see this story?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you guys see this?
now?
Say what
Can you
now?
Google this?
I clearly did
let
not.
Me look it up. Hold on one
I'm
sec.
sorry, volcano sharks?
Yeah.
Let me
Yep.
see what I can find.
Well, I mean, you
It's like
got
a
me. I'm
viral-
at the edge of my seat. Don't
Is it-
leave me hanging.
It was a
Come on.
viral post on Reddit.
Oh, that's it?
They found.
Oh yeah, they live inside a volcano. Is that right?
Like swimming through the
Yeah.
lava
So
kind
these
of thing?
sharks live inside a volcano. This is from 2017. It's not Sharknado, but it's definitely Sharkcano.
Okay, so it's
Researchers
old,
have
huh?
found thriving active sharks in an underwater volcano in the Solomon
Oh,
Islands.
okay. It's in there. They still live in water, though.
Yeah.
This year,
That's not as cool.
just when you,
I know.
I don't
Look,
care anymore. I
I'm
wanted
telling
lava
you.
sharks.
Let me see.
20 lava sharks. They're made of like some extremely dense metal that doesn't melt or something.
Yeah, sick.
2020 has not yet. We have not reached the crescendo, man.
No, it's
Oh.
you can hear the. I feel like the horns just came
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Like
We're
and
waiting
the
for the
horns cue the
cannons.
horn. Yeah, the cannon. Boom.
Yeah,
no,
dude.
no,
Seriously.
wait, no! Don't fire the cannons,
Yeah,
please.
What's the song for V for Vendetta?
Oh, the 1812
That's what, yeah,
overture.
Yes,
that's what I'm
yes,
talking about.
that's
The horns
the
just
one.
came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready for Yes.
Boom, boom, boom. Get the cannons.
Yeah, in
There's
January.
literally cannons in that song.
They found live sharks inside an active volcano in Mexico.
January.
Yeah. Is that what you're talking about?
I guess.
I guess so. I hadn't seen that.
Oh,
Oh, my
man.
gosh. Stop.
There's only one thing any of us could do at this point.
What's that?
Smash that like button.
Oh, sorry. There we go. Come on. Where's the thing? Oh, he
I took it
away
from you. That's That's right.
I'm not upset.
Oh man,
I said
not
it.
at all.
As long as they're smashing the like button,
And the subscribe button.
I won't be upset.
And we will read super chats at some point. But let's carry on this conversation, man. I want to talk to you guys about kind of like the end of America.
Huh.
Great.
So it's an election year.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats seem more desperate than they've ever seemed.
I've been saying it.
There's a couple polls have come out predicting a Donald Trump victory. But for every poll or forecast model that says Trump will win, there's like 7 that say he'll lose.
I know, it's true.
But there's another one that came out, I was talking about this earlier, that says the riots are helping Trump dramatically, as we
I
assume.
believe that, yeah.
And they said that when polled, it was like 71% of people said they prefer All Lives Matter to Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So that's a huge swing, but we have heard similar things from 2 other polls, Economist and YouGov, showing that most people in this country have a positive view of All Lives Matter, and not and it's like 40-something% have a positive view of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So
I mean, but that makes sense though, because most, as we talked about earlier, most people are not racist. Most people do believe all lives matter, and the Black Lives Matter movement, it's kind of like, I mean, what Terry Crews was saying, we got to have it be Black Lives Matter, not Black Lives Better. And it's like they're trying to convince more people, like the people that do believe all lives matter. It's like they're trying to convince people that no, you're racist. Black Lives Matter means, like, if you don't believe this, because they counter with all lives matter, which you made a great point the other day. The only thing you can say to it is, yeah, you're absolutely right, they do, because it's true. Don't, like, you have to understand, like, if they truly feel that Black lives don't matter, then you have to, when they say it, you there's only one thing to say. You're absolutely right.
That they do
You're
matter.
absolutely right, they matter. Absolutely 100% they matter.
The problem is, it's like their argument is all lives matter as a rebuttal.
Right, exactly.
Is racist, and it's like it diminishes what they're saying. And I'm like, why do you assume negativity?
Exactly.
If I said Black Lives Matter, and then someone was like, all lives matter, I'd be like, they do. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going?
Right.
Why, I'm not gonna get mad.
No, you made a really good point there. It's they're assuming that if you're not in their party, in their group, and you don't agree to their ideology, you must be on the other side of the spectrum. 100%. There's no little bit, no negotiating.
But
it's just this, or you're my enemy now.
But there are people who get really angry at people saying Black Lives Matter.
I see that also. It's true.
If someone came to me and they were like,
but it's the same reason.
If someone was like, I got a flat tire in my car, I'd be like, let me know what you need. And if someone else came by and said, well, what about all the other cars that have flat tires? You can help them too. I'd be like, I'll see what I can do. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. I don't know. I'm not gonna get mad about it. I get it.
I'm having an effect on you. You're starting to get a little more positive. I feel it.
That's the milk toast fence sitter in me.
No, that's pretty positive, bro.
What? That I'm not gonna. But that's my shtick. That, like, both sides come to me and I'm sitting there in the middle going like, whoa, hey, whoa.
Yeah, it's still pretty.
Don't cross over this fence. I'm sitting here.
Well, my perspective is always the one of optimism, so I sense it. The level is raising.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.